Welcome to the Vault Podcast and Reviews, where music still matters. You can check out all our shows at YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and PODOMATIC. Please rate, review, and most importantly, subscribe. Also, make sure to check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And if you like what we're doing and you'd like to contribute to help us keep the show going, check out patreon.com/thevault. A lot of times after you start listening to a band, you start seeing them progress. Well, they're going to change their style, add musicians, lose musicians, break up, come back. I mean, there's a band can always evolve. Sometimes people don't like the change. This album is definitely one of those that kind of separated the parties, the fan base of Opeth, so to speak. Brent, I know you've been a Opeth fan for pretty much ever. What was your take on this kind of change of style, so to speak?
At first, I didn't know what the hell I was listening to. To be completely open and honest, I really did not understand what exactly was going on, because it is very, 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 very different. But at the same time, it's still Opeth. Because I went back, I was listening to some of the stuff. I started Opeth on Ghost Reveries, so that tells you where I'm at. My absolute favorite album of theirs, and still is Damnation. I think it's one of the greatest albums ever released. So let's just get that out of the way already. And if you've listened to the difference between like Ghost Reveries and Damnation, you understand the beautiful range that this band has, and that's why I always loved them. This album, it started, I was looking at the comments while I was, listening to one of the songs. I don't remember which one now. And, people were just blasting it. And I was like, I don't understand. Why is this so awful? They haven't put out a bad album yet, And I've gone back and checked out all of them, every one of them that I could find. And so I listened to it, and I don't know about you, I was absolutely blown away by what I heard.
And we're talking about Pale Communion, the 2014 release from Opeth. 8 tracks. It actually peaked at 19 on the Billboard 200. Pretty good.
That's impressive.
Pretty good.
That's impressive.
Going back to the complaints, you know what I like to call that? The Slayer fan syndrome.
Oh, man.
Basically, if band A or band B try to go off the beaten path even just a little bit, people are all over them. Oh, they sold out. Oh, they're not true. Blah, blah, blah. Instead of just accepting it and trying to maybe just increase your musical taste instead of trying to be so close-minded. I mean, I could go on a whole rant on a whole show about this, but there's a difference. I'll use isn't it Lulu by Metallica and Lou Reed?
Yes.
I mean, that they tried something different.
Yep.
I would say that 99% of everybody in the world agreed that it was terrible.
Right.
I mean, the little bit I've listened to, I thought it was terrible, but you know what? I just said, meh, not my thing. We'll see what comes out next. And instead of saying, this is garbage, what happened? Blah, it is what it is. I mean, I saw a statement the other day, complaining about people complaining about on the internet is the new complaining on the internet.
Yes.
And that's kind of how I feel about people who don't, if you don't like this album, that's cool. But to sit here and trash the band or, trash it because there's no growling or harsh vocals, which, spoiler, I guess we just let that out of the bag.
Yeah.
I just don't understand. But
I don't either. But, we saw it with, like you mentioned, the Slayer syndrome or whatever. And
Slayer fan syndrome.
But we've seen it with, a ton of bands. And, you mentioned Metallica, too, with the Lou Reed debacle. And it's not a good album. I don't enjoy it. But they did what they wanted to do. God bless them for it.
Right.
And, but Metallica's gone through it more than probably any other band that I can think of, because they were called sellouts whenever they put out the Black Album. Then they went on a little bit of a hiatus, came back with Load, and had done the blasphemous thing and cut their hair.
So were they sellouts to sellouts at that point? If they were
exactly. Yeah. Well, they've sold their hair. They had cut their hair.
They did sell their hair, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Hair sellouts.
Right, bastards. But no, it was just, they were sellouts for the Black Album. Then they were sellouts for Load and Reload. Then they came out with S&M, and oh my God, are these guys going to ever quit? Let's have them put out, Ride the Lightning, 16 different times.
Yeah, really. And I love that album, but I mean,
it's one of my top 5 albums of all time, but by God, I don't want to listen to it all the time. That ruins what makes it special.
I'll just put it this way. If Abath wants to start working with Japanese K-pop bands, I'm totally for it.
Yes. Dude,
like,
that would be
whatever.
incredible.
I mean, it doesn't even matter. Just like music's music. If you can't get with it, go listen to, you know, that same Slayer album that you want everything to sound like. And I love Slayer, but actually, I guess I'm like the ultimate Slayer syndrome fan because I liked Show No Mercy, and then after that, I was like, really, like some of the like the very first album was really good, and then almost everything after that, I was just like, nah, it's all right.
Right. I've never been, and this is, I guess I'm going to be called out for blasphemy now. I've never been the biggest Slayer fan, to be honest with you.
You're not the only one. A lot of people are kind of indifferent about them, simply because of what we're talking about. Like, almost every album is kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
And like even Cannibal Corpse, like a lot of people said about them, but maybe some of the earlier albums were like that. But I think, you know, ever since Corpse Grinder joined the band, like every album sounds a little bit different. And, you know, they even have caught a lot of flack for, oh, you're not true death metal and blah, 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 whatever. Yeah. But anyway, man, this album, Pale Communion, wow. 8 tracks, generally that's something that I'm already kind of frowning upon because I like a lot of material. But I can tell you firsthand, there's enough material in these 8 tracks to last you a long time. Eternal Rains Will Come, first song. Again, after all the hype I'd heard about this album, I kind of knew what I was getting into, but once it started, I was like, nope, I didn't have a clue it was going to be to this extent.
Yep.
And it just kind of set the tone for the album.
Yep.
Just amazing variety of sounds. A lot of keyboard sounds that they use the keyboard now, which replicated the sound of like the old school organ from like the 60s and 70s. This is a perfect mix of like hard rock, psychedelic, some acoustic stuff, just 70s hard rock, but not the kind of rehashed generic Led Zeppelin wannabe stuff that you've heard lately from all these other bands that keep coming out of the woodwork trying to sound like they're from the 70s. Like, this is just something like way out there. A lot of progressive elements.
Yep.
And generally, it's not a good thing to get lost in these songs, but I just found myself getting lost in them, and just from the, I guess, variety and complexity of them. I mean, this isn't maybe to the lengths of like early Genesis, King Crimson, maybe kind of prog rock, but there's so much in there. I'm almost out of breath talking about it. What do you got?
The first time I heard it, I was expecting Opeth, you know, or what I had come to know as Opeth anyway, from Ghost Reveries and Watershed and Blackwater Park and all that fun stuff. So I came to it, you know, everybody had hated it, and I'm usually one of those people, if everyone else hates it, I'm going to love it. And just because that's kind of my mindset, you know, good or bad, that's kind of how I am for the most part. But I was absolutely blown away. I've never really got into the prog rock or the psychedelic stuff or anything like that, despite your best efforts.
Hey, maybe this album will change that for you.
In all seriousness, that's exactly what I was getting ready to say.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong, I have always enjoyed the level of musicianship in all of those bands. I have always enjoyed just the amazing complexity they get. It's just never really been the thing I've just wanted to sit there and jam out to, mainly because you start kind of spacing out and, you know, who knows what's going on and all this and that sometimes. But this was a totally different thing for me. And the more I listen to this album, the more I've come to respect and love all of the other Opeth albums. And that sounds weird, but if you start listening like to the other ones and stuff, especially their later few, they're basically playing very similar music. It's
you can see them kind of fading into this territory.
Yeah. And just the fact that they were doing it with like death metal was just, I started getting a brand new appreciation for the band. So yeah, I mean, it was something I absolutely, of course, did you watch any of the videos for it that's on YouTube?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're kind of trippy, kind of, you know, double image.
Of course, it fits the music.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely perfect. But you start getting lost in like the images and everything too. And I mean, it was absolutely phenomenal. I was blown away. I loved it. Of course, it's just spoiler, I guess, for the review. But honestly, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And like I said, I was listening to it again, you know, just for the review and stuff, just kind of to refresh it because I listened to it a while back. And I started getting into like, what was the name of that band I sent you? Storm Corrosion.
Mm-hmm.
And that sent me down to like Porcupine Tree, which sent me down to another band, which sent me to another band. And the next thing I know, I don't know what world I'm living in, but I'm loving the music.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's exactly what happened. And I mean, I'm like 5 bands deep, and then I realized it's like, crap, I'm supposed to be doing the review for Opeth. Crap. But it's just, I think it's that good. It may not be the greatest prog rock or, psychedelic or whatever you've heard, but it's so good. For me, it's almost like a perfect entry into that kind of musical world, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I don't even know that this is a good entry to Opeth. I mean,
Oh, yeah, it's
like it's Opeth, but at the same time, like it's in another dimension, and not meaning to use that as a pun with this album.
no. Right?
Because that's kind of where you feel like after you listen to some of it. But
Right.
wow, I'll just start off with Elysian Woes. I mean,
Yes.
that's probably the closest to the Damnation sound
Yep.
on this album that I could find. Goblin, instrumental, really good song. Early prog rock kind of, like the early prog rock sound. River had a little bit of a southern rock vibe to it.
Mhm.
Not really my favorite, but still pretty solid. Voice of Treason, darker sound, heavier. And then Faith in Others really reminded me of Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
Like just kind of the slower, spacey, not even really prog rock, just slower, spacier music. But I'm just gonna jump into my favorite song, "Moon Above, Sun Below."
Yes, absolutely.
Super dark feel.
Yes.
There's like 15 million songs crammed into one here.
Yes.
There's twists and turns all over the place. It's like 10 minutes long, 8 minutes long. Something. It's like
10:52.
there you go. It's the longest song on the album, which I absolutely hate long songs. And for this being my favorite song, that should tell you something.
Yeah.
What else do you got?
I honestly agree with everything you said. My favorite song was Moon Above, Sun Below. It's just phenomenal. The first time I heard it, I didn't know what was going, like just musically. Because, a lot of times, you start listening to stuff and you kind of get, you get a feel for how it's going to change and shift and all this and that. But like you said, there's just twists and turns all over the place. And to me, it was fantastic. And it was like a whole bunch of movements and changes and stuff, just kind of coming from all different weird angles. It didn't feel like an almost 11-minute song.
Right.
Like I got done and it had obviously been that long, but I thought I'd listened to like 5 or 6 different songs. It was fantastic. And my next favorite song was the very first one, Eternal Rains Will Come. I love the feel of it. Mm-hmm. And I love the vocal work and how he does it. It's just, I don't know. It's those 2 songs to me stand out above all of the other ones, but don't take that as a knock against the other ones. It's just the strength of those 2 songs.
Also on the vocals, I kind of let the cat out of the bag earlier, but this is one of the first albums I can remember of theirs. Maybe besides Damnation. I don't know if that one had it on there, but all clean vocals.
Yeah. Yeah.
No guttural stuff, which was a huge complaint from a lot of the online metal community.
Yep.
And I don't have a problem with it. In fact, I'm getting kind of tired of a lot of the guttural stuff. I don't know if that's because I'm getting old. And then maybe, that's another interesting thing. Like, I don't know about you, but like the older I get, the more like progressive music I end up liking the stuff that's more out there, but maybe not as extreme as far as like bang your head kind of extreme. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just consider it like getting mellow in my old age.
It's a different kind of mellow though, because it's still pretty out there. Like I think back to like grandparents listening to the stuff they grew up with or whatever, but I'm like, no, I want to listen to the stuff from like 30 years ago.
Right.
People on acid trips and whatnot. But
yeah, I'm still not there quite yet. Now I will say you have shared some good stuff with me, and I will remember those. But I like something that has a good kind of relaxing, calming feel for the most part anymore, but something that's still very musically kind of technical, which I still enjoy. That's one thing I really like about this too.
That's what I was getting ready to ask. Did this have that kind of relaxing feeling to you? Because to me it didn't. To me it was like it almost had my head spinning from just so much awesome stuff going on.
Well, that's kind of what I mean. I guess that was an awful way to say it. Like I didn't feel like I wanted to kick back and take a nap. Let's say it that way. But I also didn't feel like I wanted to ram my head through a wall and like some of their other stuff, like the Blackwater Park album and, the kind of more aggressive stuff that they have. But I don't know. It's hard to describe because like to me it's very, very mellow. It's like you said, all clean vocals. And anymore, that's pretty much how I decide if something's mellow or not, which is probably an awful way to describe it. But if it's more mellow, like vocally, I tend to find it a more mellow song. So, take that with a grain of salt, I guess. But if you didn't like Damnation, and if you didn't like, I can't remember the name of the songs on Ghost Reveries, there's a couple songs on there that kind of change like some of this does. If you don't like, it's the Coil. It's the first song off Watershed. Then honestly, this may not be the album for you. But if you're a fan of like any type of prog psychedelic or just damn good music, I think it'd be great.
So what negatives do you have, if any?
Honestly, it's very hard for me to find some. There were a couple songs that some of the changes got kind of a little old. You had said it. I don't have it written down here. But it was the one you had even mentioned was just kind of, not up to snuff with the rest of it. But honestly, I don't have a whole lot of negatives to say. Because it twists and changes and everything just so well. And the mixing, I think, is done fantastic. I guess it was Steven Wilson who actually mixed it. I was looking on here. It was produced and mixed by Steven Wilson. Or it was produced by Michael and mixed by Steven Wilson. Yeah. So it's kind of, it's very, very weird to me. It's still something I'm just now kind of dipping my toe into really well.
Sometimes it takes a good solid album to kind of change your perspective, or not even change your perspective, but kind of get you down into a different genre's rabbit hole to kind of take off from there. Because,
right.
I mean, within like, if you want to mix the styles that are in this album, hard 70s rock, prog rock, psychedelic, each one of those kind of has their extremes and, it just kind of branches off. I mean, so, but sometimes like for me, I can remember plain as day, like black metal, which is one of my favorite genres.
Yep.
For me to get into the really early stuff, for me to really appreciate it, it was Dark Throne, Under Funeral Moon, and the first song I heard that kind of turned me on to that was Unholy Black Metal, because before that, I hated the, we like to use the term chainsaw guitars, pizza box drums. I hated that stuff. Like, I wanted all my production clean.
Right.
And then I ran into this, and it wasn't about the production at this point. It was about this song projected this mood, and it just kind of made you feel a certain way. And that's why I started liking the psychedelic stuff and the prog rock stuff, because it just puts off this different vibe. And, this may be the album for you guys listening that turns you on to one of these genres. Who knows? But this is definitely worth giving a shot. So my only negative, kind of jumping into that, is Cusp of Eternity got a little repetitive for me at parts. And then maybe there was a couple other parts throughout the album that would get a little bit repetitive, but again, nitpicking at this point. But again, that's what I seem to do on every album, which I guess that's a good thing if I've got to nitpick something instead of just bashing it. So 1 star being the worst, 5 stars being the best. What do you give this album?
I've been kind of tossing it around all day. I really have. Believe it or not, it's actually kind of hard. Because like I said, I don't want to... screw it. I was going to say I don't really want to be like, because I'm sure this is not the greatest prog, album ever released, or, psychedelic or whatever, mixing styles, whatever you want to call it. It's probably not the best technical, but damn it, I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm going to give it a 4.5 because I think it's just fantastic. And if you're a fan of Opeth, like even their older stuff, because most of the fans of Opeth I'm using quotes. You can't see it because it's a podcast without video, but quote unquote fans of Opeth have always loved how they just switch in and out of styles and movements and change and all this and that within all of their songs. And this is like the ultimate evolution of that from everything else they've done beforehand.
But it doesn't have harsh vocals.
Sorry,
I had to throw that out there.
No, and that's the sad part about it. Now, my favorite album is still Damnation. So that album, the entire album, Damnation, speaks to me in just, amazing ways. I absolutely love that album. This one's not quite there for me, but it's a lot closer than I thought it was going to be when I first listened to it. So the harsh vocals for me were never that much of a part of Opeth. I love it, but I always loved the counterplay between the harsh and the clean. And for them to have done this like the way they did it, and I love his attitude after making it, because I mean they've been paying hard. I mean, people have called this like, you know, their black album.
Right.
And he's like, look, you know, I as a musician I have to be true to, this is not a direct quote, mind you. But basically he's like, you know, I have to be true to me and what I want to do. And he's like, and this is the direction I want to go, basically. So this is the direction I'm going. I absolutely love that. It's something that if you've enjoyed the complexity of Opeth in the past, there's no reason why you shouldn't enjoy this one if you can open your mind up to a different style, which I honestly believe the way I easily went down that rabbit hole earlier today, I honestly think this has been like a perfect bridge to get me into more of, like I said, the psychedelic kind of prog, kind of metal, you know, 70s kind of hard rock type stuff. So I absolutely wholeheartedly endorse this. And they're, you know, not all the songs are the greatest in the world, but I think just the feel and the bravery and how they put it all together, honestly, is a 4.5 to me.
I'm actually going to beat you out on this one, barely.
Oh.
I'm giving it a 4 3/4.
Nice.
Just missed the 5 for me.
Nice.
And maybe that's a little bit because I just love this kind of music, the mix of all this stuff. Yeah. Top-notch musicianship and production, wide variety of sounds and styles. I especially like the use of the keyboards and the different sounds that the different sounds that they can produce from the keyboard. I think this is my favorite Opeth album to date. I told you I'm kind of like that it was all clean singing.
Yep.
I don't know that I think I'm just getting tired of some of the guttural stuff. You know, when I can go back and listen to, you know, early Morbid Angel or early Entombed or whatever, and it's got the extreme vocals, and that's cool. I don't want that to change.
Right.
But when a band puts out something new, if it doesn't have those super harsh vocals, like, I'm okay with it. I'm not going to bash it because of that.
Amen.
And I'm not going to bash this because it's not super heavy or anything, you know. Like, I just think people are so close-minded that they just can't accept change. And, you know, that's what we're all about at the show is trying to get as much different variety and changes and styles and anything else we can throw at you. So that's going to put this album just below 4 3/4 average. That's pretty good.
And honestly, I don't even mind going up to a 4 3/4. I mean, it is. I think it is that good. Like I said.
All right, we'll call it at that then.
I have, like I said, Damnation. You know, there's always those albums that are there for you when you need them. You know, with whatever's going on in life, and Damnation was one of those albums. So, you know, 15, 20 years from now, I may look back and think, oh man, this Pale Communion blows that one away. But I'm still, you know, so, you know, take the Damnation with a grain of salt. But this album blew me away. And like I said, it started sending me down a rabbit hole, which all fantastic, great albums do.
So thanks for checking out this review, and make sure to check out this album, I would say.
Definitely.
Yeah, I would say anything that's over a 4.5 is a must check out, just my opinion.
Yeah, this is definitely, if you're a fan of just good musicianship and good music, I mean, you know, screw the style, screw who Opeth used to be, forget all of that. If you're a fan of good, solid music, you have to check this one out. At least go to YouTube, type in Pale Communion, and just get lost.
So thanks for checking out the review. Don't forget to check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Share, like, comment, get it out in front of your friends so we can help expand our audience to check out more of these kind of albums that we're giving really high scores to. Check us out on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and Podomatic. You can subscribe to us on there. And don't forget, if you'd like to help support the show, you can check us out, patreon.com/thevault. We got cool perks to give away there if you feel like contributing monetarily. And like I said, subscribe to all of our shows. And until next time, see ya.